those details. What I can tell you from our viewpoint is that this was the attempted assassination of 2 police officers that were out in this community trying to stabilize that situation that had devolved last night on the back of, ironically, the resignation of Ferguson officials and what would seem to have been the progress that many people were looking for in that community. And then we, of course, saw it devolve into what it was last night. And then 2 officers, unfortunately, were almost killed.
I mean, I think Belmar's comments are the best there, but for the grace, right, of God. Because
absolutely.
One was shot in the face, one was shot in the shoulder. Well, a few centimeters one way or the other, and we're talking about 2 dead officers.
And it's something that the community and sometimes people in the United States, we almost become numb to the idea. And we actually say things like, well, the officer was shot, but it was non-life-threatening injuries. How about we leave off that part and just say the officers were shot? Mm-hmm. Because when you attack police officers, the majority of the people in the community support law enforcement, and when you attack that that fabric of society. This has been a problem community. We've had issues here in St. Louis. We haven't gotten a lot of help in law enforcement. We've been kind of vilified right. in the media and so on and so forth. But I don't want to blame all of this on them, on the media. You know, I think that what happened last night is tragic. But it's not the first officers that have been shot. We've had multiple officers shot since these events in Ferguson. We've had multiple officer-involved shootings since to these events in Ferguson. This isn't something that has stopped because the national media left town. This is still going on, and even our local media outlets have continued to kind of agitate the situation with various stories and really digging into things. So it's very frustrating. And what happens is you get to events that happened last night. The tragic injury, the tragic shooting of 2 officers, one of which is someone that I've known and has been a part of my life for over 20 years. He's a friend, a mentor, and quite frankly, one of the best guys you'd ever want to meet in your life.
Chief Belmar sort of insinuated that he was sort of surprised by the protests last night. I think we're all shocked. Did you guys have any idea that there was going to be some type of protest last night? You would think that the protesters, as you said, are getting what they wanted, and this is what they're wanting. What are they angry about?
Well, that's the toughest part of this job. I mean, as Chief Belmer said, I mean, it's getting to the point where there's probably not a law enforcement agency in this country that can figure out a way to handle situations that are this fluid. We can't develop that kind of intel that moves that fast, so we know that at this minute of this hour, someone's going to shoot at the police. It's the unknown, and it's this unknown that police officers, our police commanders, tactical operators and detectives and every municipal officers, so on and so forth. It is that unknown that these officers have had to deal with since August, standing out there every night, being accused of the militarization and the oppressive conduct and all of these things, when really at any given moment your life could be threatened. You could be shot by a coward from the wood line, or from behind a business, right, or from a rooftop. And it's that unknown that makes this job so difficult, and even more frustrating when law enforcement are constantly second-guessed and sideline quarterbacked and backseat drivered, whatever you want to say, every single day over and over again by people who are in a studio somewhere in New York.
Then there's some video that's appearing on YouTube, and I clearly haven't seen all of it. I've seen some of it.
And I've seen none of it, just for the record.
But you can imagine you have 2 groups of people. One that's quote-unquote peaceful, the other one's that looking to cause trouble. There was a fight last night between the 2 factions of the groups. Right. So the police have to go in and sort of break up the fight and sort of wrestle one of the agitators to the ground. While they're doing that, then the other people are yelling at the police officer, "How dare you take away that man's rights?" Right. So you're trying to keep the peace while bringing somebody to the ground to arrest the bad guy. Meanwhile, even though they were against that bad guy, they're now blaming you for being mean to that bad guy, all while chaos is around
Right.
you.
It's the very definition of being stuck between a rock and a hard place. I mean, if that is the new definition for that. How are these police officers supposed to respond to these chaotic situations? Trying to maintain some level of civility, trying to use the minimum amount of force, necessary to control that situation and make everyone happy at the same time. I mean, the expectations that have been put on police officers by politicians, by our national leaders in the Department of Justice, they have painted a picture that is simply not attainable. They are setting goals and setting priorities and trying to set these bars, these standards that are simply not attainable in these types of situations where officers are being shot. And I want to say this too. You keep watching those videos and what you're going to see are the heroes standing on the front line, some good people out there that wanted to protest last night, and officers who were telling them to get down, officers who didn't run away from the scene, that stood there in the line of fire, dragging their fellow officers from the scene to get them medical attention, and still, in the face of sniper gunfire, an attempted assassination attempt, they stood out there with minimal protective equipment. They didn't have the appropriate gear they needed in that kind of situation. They had riot gear. What they needed was tactical gear that could stop stronger bullets and helmets and so on and so forth. These officers are heroes. And again, like I said, on a personal note, I don't know the Webster Groves officer, but I already got a call this morning that somebody, a good friend of mine that knows him, and it's just it's disheartening, it's frustrating, but I think it's important that law enforcement take the high road here and do what we've done and what I've been doing on your show, which is talk about what can we do to make this better. But no matter what we do, it just doesn't seem to be enough.
Gabe Crocker with us. Thanks for coming in on what is can only be a scary morning for you and for all of your fellow police officers. Gabe Crocker, St. Louis County Police Association President.
Yes.
Thanks and be safe.
Thanks, McGraw.
9:34 here, Big 550.